Another three by Casspi. That's his second one tonight.
And Casspi
has never been better.
9 threes.
You're listening to Inside Israel Today with Gil Hoffman on the Land of Israel Network.
Hello and welcome to Inside Israel Today here on the Land of Israel Network on thelandofisrael.com, where we are going to be talking sports today. We have been following all year the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors are not an Israeli team. Why would we be following them here on the Land of Israel Network? Because of one man, Omri Casspi, the first Israeli in the NBA, a proud Jew, a mensch, an all-around good guy who deserves all the best. And we found out on Saturday night that he's being waived by the Warriors, that he is not going to be playing with them in the playoffs. And this is very sad, and so I thought it's important to speak to a top Israeli sports journalist to talk about what happened behind the scenes that has led to this sports tragedy for Israel. Thank you, Eran Soroka from Nana Esser, Channel 10 and the Nana website, for coming here on the Land of Israel Network on Inside Israel Today.
Good morning, Gil. Also, Sport 5 channel.
Also, Sport 5.
How are you? Yeah?
I'm absolutely wonderful. Yeah. Sport 5 carries NBA games here in Israel, right?
Yeah, and I'm hosting a weekly show and broadcasting games weekly.
And do you know Omri Casspi personally?
I'm monitoring Omri's development from his days in the Israeli youth leagues and high school leagues. He's a great guy. I know him, his efforts to make it to the NBA, and then his development there. I talked to him a couple of times, interviewed a couple of times. I'm sure he's really disappointed, even more than all of us, and we are disappointed.
There were really high expectations with him going to the Warriors, finally being on a winning team after being on Sacramento and Cleveland right after LeBron left. And here he had an opportunity to go to the playoffs and to be there in the middle of the glory, and that's being taken away.
Yeah, well, actually, it's worth mentioning that Omri Casspi is leading the NBA, the entire NBA, in regular season games without any playoff appearance. He was going to the playoffs once. He made it with the Houston Rockets in 2014, but then Kevin McHale decided to cut the rotation and left him and another good player, Donatas Motiejunas, out, and they didn't play a single second of this playoffs, and they got knocked out in the first round. So maybe that's also a thing McHale is regretting now. But when he joined the Warriors, a lot of eyebrows were raised in Israel. People saying, "What can Omri Casspi contribute to the mighty Warriors, to one of the best teams of all time?" But from the moment he signed there, I thought it is a blessing and a possible curse, because if you're not performing well in the Golden State Warriors, you will be sidelined. You will be going relegated to the bench and to irrelevancy. You can't be mediocre. You can't be like less than great when you're playing for the Golden State Warriors. And for the most part of the season, Casspi did meet the expectations and even above them, because when he got the chance, he played great. He played with a lot of energy, with a lot of rebounding, with a lot of passion. He changed his game a little bit, and this is what in the aftermath maybe became part of his undoing, because for the most part of his career he was shooting threes and spacing the floor, and when he made it to the Golden State Warriors, it appears on the surface that they have enough three-point shooting, and so he can cut more to the basket and take the attention away from the superstars and get great passes and score on a high percentage. But then suddenly they decided that he's not shooting enough threes. And this was part of the problem with him. The most amazing stat is that on the 2015-16, on 2 visits to the Oracle when he was playing with the Sacramento Kings, he had 12 three-pointers made. In the entire season with the Golden State Warriors, he had 10.
Oh,
and
no.
he shot it in a great percentage. He shot it with great percentage, like 45% from deep. Is great, but he didn't shoot enough, and he was Omri always kind of psychological also, because when he's losing confidence, he's more hesitant to shoot. And when you're playing near Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, even if you're Omri Casspi and you have an open shot, you rather pass it to your one of Hall of Famer teammates, because they are Hall of Famers and you're not. And he's a humble guy, and he knows his place in the rotation, and he knows that he had to be a team player, and without being a team player, he wasn't going to sign with the Warriors anyway. But when he did play good, and Steve Kerr loved him a lot. I heard Steve Kerr talking about him a lot of times, and he was enamored with the Israelis' energy and being a great teammate. And
the coach, in his interviews last night, he said that it was really hard to tell him. It wasn't fun to tell him that he had lost his job. But what I don't understand, Iran, is why couldn't he just be on the sidelines during the playoffs? Why did they have to cut him?
Because from this season, most of the season's NBA teams could carry 15 players to the playoffs. And this season, each team got 2 more spots for the regular season that they could sign players to something new called two-way contract. It means that they are playing for the G League, the developmental league of the NBA, for most of the season. And then you can join the regular NBA team, even if sometimes it's not from like your affiliate NBA team, and get a new a contract. And what happened with the Warriors is that Steph Curry, that, by the way, played less games than Omri Casspi this year.
Really? Wow.
Really, 51. He got injured a lot. After a few years of stability, injury-wise, health-wise, he got injured a lot. And in March 23rd, if I remember it right, he was waiting for a rebound when a teammate fell on his knee and sprained his knee. So when he got hurt, another point guard was needed by the Warriors. And the guy called Quinn Cook, that was like a journeyman, a player that never made any impact at the NBA, got Curry's place on the starting lineup and started being in an amazing zone. He scored like a maniac. He scored like 20, 25 a game with very high percentage from deep. And what happened that Quinn Cook, that wasn't on a regular contract, had to be on a regular contract. And so to have him on the playoff roster, the Warriors had to cut one of their existing 15 contracts.
Why couldn't they cut Patrick McCaw? He's injured.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem. First of all, Omri was also injured. If Omri was able to return like 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago, and get playing time and shoot threes and be good and be relevant, maybe the decision by the Warriors was other. I think that the fact that they waited almost to the last day of the decision who to cut means that they had a dilemma. Otherwise, they could waive Casspi like 1 week or 2 weeks before. Patrick McCaw is going to be a restricted free agent, which means that if the Warriors want to retain him next season, they could do it more easily than with Casspi, because Casspi is hitting unrestricted free agency and he can go whenever he wants. So possibly, if they're going to cut McCaw and stay with Casspi, it's possible that they could lose both. Now they have the ability to control Patrick McCaw's next contract, and I don't think that his impact in the Warriors' upcoming playoffs would be so great, because, for example, he's injured for the next 3 or 4 weeks. But we can remember that on last year's playoffs, and even in the finals, he gave good minutes against Cleveland, against San Antonio. So Patrick McCaw, even though he's younger than Casspi, much younger than Casspi, he already have the experience, the playoff experience with the Warriors, and they gave them good minutes, so they know what he's able to do in the playoffs. And maybe this also was a part of the factor. And they wanted to cut somebody, and they had like 4 or 5 guys that they were able to cut, but then they decided they want to have all their bigs, including Damian Jones, which was not contributing, but he gave great numbers on the G League team. So they wanted to have everybody, because of their salary cap structure and problems, they wanted to have as many possible healthy players and players under contract. And so Casspi, under those circumstances, was the only rational decision that he could make.
So what is he going to do now? Well, where do you see Omri Casspi heading? Would he go back to Israel, or is he going to find an NBA team? Will he try to find an NBA team that'll play him more, or will he try to go back to Golden State? What do you think?
I think that if Golden State will offer him a new contract, similar to the one he had this year, he will consider it. Because he is
the minimum
a
contract
that
it was
the
worth.
minimum contract.
He could earn a lot more with playing for Phoenix, for instance, where he played wonderful against Phoenix.
Yeah, for Phoenix or for Brooklyn, but going to Phoenix or Brooklyn doesn't change your outlook for the career, doesn't make you relevant. For example, I wrote it in a column yesterday or 2 days ago. Theoretically, he could go to Brooklyn, like earn $5 or $6 or $7 or $4 million this year, average 20 and not 20, like 12 and 6 or 13 and 7. But nobody would talk about him because he was playing for the lowly Brooklyn Nets, which is the team with the 8th or 9th worst record in the NBA. And even if he was helping them winning and, playing near the great Jewish community in Brooklyn, that wasn't helping his case as like a relevant NBA player. And from Brooklyn, if you're going to be a free agent after being cut from Golden State, and if you're going to be free agent after finishing a season contract in Brooklyn, these are different situations. When you play for the Golden State Warriors, you can't take it from me. He played for the Golden State Warriors. He was a good fit. I think he made a better name for himself being a fit on a good team, on a great team, on a championship team, than playing more and earning more somewhere else, especially in lottery teams. For the upcoming summer, Warriors are, of course, one of the options. If he's going to price himself and as a minimum contract guy, and he will probably settle on this, he can find place on a multiple good to great teams. I can see teams like Utah, which is playing very organized basketball, very team basketball, eyeing him. Maybe San Antonio, which is monitoring him like from he was in his mother's utero. I think they know him for like 15 or 14 years because they're monitoring like every international player in the world. I can see maybe
New Orleans, him going back to play with DeMarcus Cousins next year.
Yeah, but nobody knows where DeMarcus Cousins will play because he's going to be free agent as well. And maybe going even to the Lakers. He will search a team that is playing team basketball with a coach that can relate to him, that he can form a good relationship with, because he already had some bad relationships with coaches like Byron Scott, like Dave Yeager that took the reins in Sacramento.
Malone was the coach who liked him a lot.
A coach that likes him, a front office that maybe likes him, and the role. He needs a role, and the NBA, because of the kind of the market that is to be this summer, that many teams don't have money to sign new players. And so if Casspi is going to be on a minimum deal, I think he will have at least 4 or 5 good options that he has to choose from. Maybe he will wait a little bit to test the market to see where the big superstars on his position are going, and then, of course, going to some place else. But I think that his 2 priorities are playing for a team that is going or to make the playoffs, or at least fight for the playoff spot, and for a team that is playing team basketball with a coach that he can build a chemistry with.
The answer that Omri, by the way, himself gave to Eileen Voisin of the Sacramento Bee was, no, I want to stay in the NBA. I learned so much this year with the Warriors. That's what makes this so hard. It's an amazing organization. Steve Kerr, the way he handles things, the good times, the adversity is really impressive. He told me that he loves what I bring too, and I could tell that it was hard for him to tell me. When we met with the GM, Steve kept looking down. I told him, I love you guys. I understand. I just feel if I could have ever gotten healthy, I'd be on the playoff roster. But what are you going to do? This is a hard business sometimes. You can almost tell he was crying when he said that.
Yeah. After you're going to Golden State, I think that you don't want to leave the NBA ever. It's like, I've never been there, but from what I heard, from what I read, from what I listened on podcasts with the guys of the team, this is an outstanding organization, not only a sports organization, but a human organization, a workplace that is so appreciative of good people, that give you so much room to grow, so many opportunities to speak and to be relevant and to express yourself, that it is really hard for me to believe that he will go someplace else from the NBA, and surely he will search for a good clubhouse, a good club. Maybe the
so
Warriors,
my last question would be, there were reports yesterday that the Israeli government wanted to have Omri Casspi light a torch on Yom Ha'atzmaut, on Israel's Independence Day, during the main ceremony on Mount Herzl, with other people who brought a lot of pride to Israel. But the Warriors said he can't go because it's right around the time of the playoffs, and this is seen as a double tragedy because now he doesn't have a team. He can be in Israel, and he can't light a torch. But yesterday, the president of Honduras canceled. So is there anything we can do to get him that torch?
First of all, after all the controversies about the torches ceremony, I'm not sure that this is such a prize to light a torch.
Uh-huh.
But, the last aside, Omri is deserving to light a torch because he made Israel his pride. And if Golden State were agreeing to let him go to the torches, it was very, very difficult because you can't let a player go to Israel, to the other side of the world for a week during the playoffs. So imagine yourself what would have happened if Golden State was keen on releasing him, and then, for example, getting him back, and he was in jet lag, and he wasn't contributing enough, and he was missing crucial three-pointer in a crucial game, and then, oh God, it's because of this ceremony in Israel. They couldn't grant him a go because also they were waiting for the last moment. For example, theoretically, if Yvonne Looney is killing his ACL in like April 6 or April 5, Omri Casspi would be to the playoff roster, healthy or not, because they needed each and every healthy player, and they needed to wait until the last moment. Omri will get his torch. I'm not worried for him, and he will continue to make Israeli pride, and you don't need to light a torch to be a national hero, to be a national symbol for Israel, and Omri Casspi is legitimately one already.
Absolutely. Well, Eran Soroka, a veteran Israeli sports journalist on Sport 5, Channel 10, and the Nana website, and someone who has been following Omri Casspi for a very long time and knows him personally. Thank you for coming here on Inside Israel today on the Land of Israel Network.
Thanks, Gil. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. After the break, we're going to continue talking about the tragedy of Omri Casspi. Stay with us.
This is Eve Harrow for the Land of Israel Network. You can start every week with me, hearing views and interviews with fascinating people, some well-known, others homegrown, about places I guide, ideas I have to get you thinking too. It's about the land. It's about my people. It's about our collective journey. Rejuvenation with Eve Harrow, Sundays on the Land of Israel Network. Listen in. Share the ride.
And we're back here on the Land of Israel Network, on thelandofisrael.com, where we are talking about one of the most special Israelis who make Israelis look good all around the world. I'm talking to you in a day where people are talking here about IDF soldiers and saying not such nice words when they're on the battlefront, and that video being spread on the internet, and at a time when our politicians are bickering and embarrassing us a little bit to the point that the president of Honduras isn't coming here anymore when he was going to be lighting a torch on Israel's Independence Day because he was trained by the Israeli Foreign Ministry as it trains people in developing countries all around the world. And here we have an Israeli in Omri Casspi who has done nothing but bring us pride and joy since he entered the NBA. He didn't have to do that. He could have just focused on sports, but he chose to be an ambassador for Israel. He chose to bring the top players in the NBA to Israel on trips in order to show them that we're right in the Arab-Israeli conflict, in order to show them this is a beautiful country, in order to show them that we are the light unto the nations that the prophets said we would be. And, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, we say that Torah comes out of Zion, and that Torah usually comes in the form of something more Jewish than basketball, but Torah is a way of life. Torah is instructions for living. That's what it means. And here we have a basketball player, someone, not doing something seen as the most holy, who is using that pulpit that he gets as an NBA player to spread the gospel, to spread the good news about Israel, about the Jewish state and who we are. He is close with the Jewish community wherever he has played, especially in Sacramento where he played for a while. He has been involved in fundraising for Israel in Jewish federations. He has been very involved in the Chabad movement wherever he has played. He has made a point of openly adopting Jewish practices of praying every day with tefillin on his arm and on his head. And perhaps that helped him be even a better player. But on the court, he has been such a team player. As Iran has said, he knew how to pass to the stars when he was with them. One of the reasons why he didn't build up his own statistics is why take a shot when you can pass the ball to a Hall of Famer? And that's exactly the kind of player that a great team with 4 potential Hall of Famers like the Golden State Warriors needed. And it's not just me saying it. Here's the coach, Steve Kerr, speaking about how awful he felt having to tell Omri that he wouldn't be with the team for the playoffs.
But it was difficult to go ahead and go through with it because he's been with us all season long, and we love Omri and what he brought to the team. Great teammate. It was difficult to sit with him and tell him we were going to do this, but it was the only decision we could make under the circumstances, and we have to have Quinn for the playoffs, and we couldn't release anybody else. Everybody else is healthy and playing and or under contract or team control for next year in Patrick's case. And so this was the decision that we had to come to. It wasn't fun, but the main thing is that Omri is just a pro and a great teammate, and he handled everything beautifully last night, and it felt awful, but you have to do what you have to do.
When he was healthy, what did he show you overall?
He's a great cutter. He's a wonderful fit in our system. That's why we recruited him. When he was right, and when he got to start some games, when we had some injuries, he had some really good games for us. He's just a victim of circumstance more than anything.
Did you guys decide to do it yesterday because you guys are heading on the road and he's injured, and it just?
Yeah, we wanted to wait and see what happened last night. We were aware that there could still be other injury issues that might have changed the decision. So we wanted to wait as long as we could, but we also didn't want to bring them on the road and go through a game or two where it's like, this doesn't feel right either. There is no right answer on this. You just want to do it as respectfully as you can, and it felt like last night was the proper time for it.
That was Steve Kerr, the coach of perhaps the best team in the NBA ever that did not have Michael Jordan. He played, of course, with Michael Jordan on one of the best Chicago Bulls teams, which are still the best teams to ever play in the NBA. But you could hear the pain in the voice of Steve Kerr about how he so wanted Omri to be there in the playoffs with the Golden State Warriors, not only because he's a player who could contribute so much, but also because of the kind of human being that he is. And so I don't know if he's going to get to light a torch in the ceremony that we have here on Independence Day, but he will continue to light a torch for Israel as his career continues to progress in the NBA. That torch that he lights constantly for Israel is that light. He is part of that light, being part of the light unto the nations that the people of Israel are. And so that's why I thought it was so important to devote my show to the great Omri Casspi today. People on the Land of Israel Network might focus on more of the nitty-gritty, the Torah and the commandments. I'm focusing here on the rebounds and the points and the assists that Omri Casspi has given to the state of Israel. So here's my salute to you, Omri Casspi. I hope that you next year will be on a playoff team playing an important role and continuing to make the people of Israel proud. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel's Independence Day, coming up next week. Fly your Israeli flags with pride, whether you're in Israel, whether you're in America, whether you're somewhere around the world. I myself will be this coming weekend speaking in Long Island on Atlantic Beach as part of the 70 for 70, among the top speakers from Israel being brought to the United States, 70 speakers to speak at 70 synagogues in America. A beautiful program of the Religious Zionists of America and the World Mizrahi, and I'm very appreciative to them for that. So thank you for being a part of our show and a part of Yom HaAtzmaut and all the celebrations for Israel here on Inside Israel today on the Land of Israel Network, on thelandofisrael.com. Thank you for being with us, and thank God for Israel. Bye-bye.